years ago, in the city of Oyibo, there lived a successful businessman named Oladipo, who was often away on business trips. He was married to his beautiful wife Mutiat, and they had three beautiful kids, two girls and a boy, namely Ife, Toby, and Amina. He was deeply caring for his family, despite his unavailability most times. Mutiat, Oladipo's wife, was juggling her banking career and family life. She was strict but loving. She always strived to maintain order in the household. One day, she had a little setback at work, which made her unable to go bring back the kids herself, since Oladipo was already away on his usual trip. Mutiat called their gateman to help bring back the kids from school. When the gateman arrived at the school, Ife, the eldest of Mutiat's children, refused to join her siblings with the gateman home. Ife was a curious and intelligent child. She never believed that nothing was impossible. She said to the gateman, "Please call my mom on the phone. I want to speak with her." The gateman reluctantly dialed, and Ife's mother answered. Ife started, "Mom, what on earth made you to abandon us in school?" As Mutias was about to explain to her daughter, the gateman took the phone off her hands and they headed home. Mutiat got home so late that Toby and Amina were already sleeping, but Ife, her eldest child, stayed awake awaiting her return. As soon as Mutiat saw her, she apologized to her and explained her ordeals. As they both discussed, Mutiat opined she was going to get a house help who would help relieve her of the stress. Ife at first never bought the idea, but her mom, Mutiat, convinced her beyond all reasonable doubts. She also informed Oladipo, who rejected the idea, but Mutiat insisted. The next day, a young woman named Amara arrived at Oladipo's house. Amara is from the Igbo tribe. She already has a baby out of wedlock. Mutiat, Oladipo's wife, welcomed her warmly, and Amara asked, with her calm voice, "I believe you are Mrs. Oladipo. I was sent by Tensi recruitment firm to this house to be their help." And Mutiat, with joy and relief she had found someone reliable to help manage the household, gladly nodded. As days turned into weeks, Amara became an indispensable part of the Oladipo family. She was efficient, hardworking, and seemed to have a way with the children, especially Amina, who was the youngest of Mutia's children. Amara, who had earned Mutia's trust, was an innocent thief. She would take things out from the house any day she was going to the market. One day, Ife, the eldest daughter, began to notice strange happenings. Their toys kept missing every day, that they would search everywhere within the house without finding them. Some of their clothes also started missing as well. Her favorite outfits she wears at home were no longer at sight. She summoned courage and asked Amara their help. "Auntie Amara," she said, "do you know where my red cloth is? I've been looking for it, but I can't find it." Amara, looking so innocent, answered her, "I haven't seen any clothes. However, I will search for it." Few days later, a young man named Obinna came to Oladipo's house when Mrs. Oladipo and the kids were already out, and Mr. Oladipo wasn't back from his business trip. Obinna was carrying a child he had with Amara, and immediately he entered the house, Amara rushed to him and hugged him, carrying the baby from him. "Oh, I miss you, my baby," Amara said to the child. Obinna asked, "How is the plans going?" Amara replied, "Going well. Mr. Oladipo isn't back yet. I will strike immediately he comes back." Obinna was happy with the status report. As he was about leaving, they noticed that Mrs. Oladipo and the kids were back. Amara looked for a hiding place for Obinna and the child. Few minutes later, the kids came in without their mother. "Where is your mother?" Amara asked Ife, the eldest child. "She has gone back to the office," she replied. Amara took them inside, and soon after, Obinna and the child left. Ife noticed someone leaving the house, but she couldn't fathom. The next day, she confided in her mother. Mutiat was skeptical but concerned. She decided to keep a closer watch on Amara, even though she was always busy at work. Amara knew about Ife and her mother's meetings. She then devised another means to be seeing Obinna and the child. Every day, Mutiat would come back home unannounced just to confirm what her daughter told her, but she would be disappointed. She did that for 2 weeks and got tired. She decided to let go and had disbelief in her daughter. Few weeks later, Oladipo, Mutiat's husband, came home after being away for so long, only to be welcomed by Amara, the house help. Immediately he saw her, his spirit became restless. He asked, "Who are you, and what are you doing in my house?" Amara answered with a heavy and a harsh voice, "How dare you ask me that question?" She paused and said to him, "I'm sorry, sir," and calmed her voice. "My name is Amara, and I'm your house help." Oladipo became weak. He said to himself, "My wife disobeyed me and brought in a help, even when I asked her not to." That evening, Mutiat returned from work and noticed her husband was home. She felt something was wrong, but she couldn't pinpoint what it was. She became so worried. At night, while they slept, Mutiat woke Oladipo and engaged in a discussion with him. "Honey," she asked, "is everything okay? How was your trip?" After a few minutes of silence from Oladipo, he told the wife, "Please send back Amara to where she came from." He explained to Mutiat his experience with her when he returned home. But Mutiat laughed so hard. She told her husband, "Amara has been the best thing that happened to us. She does everything very well. In fact, she is perfect," she said. Oladipo tried all he could to convince the wife, but the wife never believed him. She felt he was angry that she disobeyed him by bringing a help to the house without his consent. The next day, while Oladipo was at home resting, Amara came dusting the furniture in front of him, wearing skimpy clothes that is capable of seducing him. But angrily, Oladipo ordered her to leave his sight as he knew what she was up to. Disappointedly, Amara left, but she never relented. She called Obinna, the father of her child, on phone, and they both discussed extensively. The next day, she left the house and went to meet with Obinna, while Oladipo was in the house all alone as his wife and kids were already out. Amara got a substance from Obinna, which he would add in Oladipo's meal so he could sleep off and become unconscious. She got home, prepared the food, and added the substance on the portion she served Oladipo. But Oladipo rejected the food. He has never for once eaten the food she made, as he disliked her with passion. Since his wife Mutiat was not willing to send her away, he chose to reject and avoid anything that came from her. That evening, Mutiat came home and Oladipo called out to her and said, "Woman, I am very hungry. Can you make food for me to eat already?" Mutiat was surprised by what her husband asked her. As she remembered, Amara was supposed to cook. She asked him, "Didn't Amara give you food? What has she been doing?" "Sorry, my dear. Let me serve your food." Oladipo said to her, "If it is the food made by your help, Count me out. I am not eating. Mutiat didn't know her husband hasn't been eating at home since he found out Amara has been the person doing the cooking. Mutiat told her husband she was so tired to start cooking food for him. Please manage the available one, she said to him. But Oladipo left her in anger, knowing she was not willing to fit into what he wanted. The next day, same thing happened, but it took a different shape. This time, Mutiat pretended she was cooking for him in the kitchen, while Amara was the one doing it, and she utilized the opportunity to strike. She brought Obinna, her man, into the house and hid him in her room. As carefree as Mutiat was, Amara added the substance to the food while she handed the food over to her to serve Oladipo, her husband. Oladipo was impressed seeing the wife served him in assurance she made the food. He said, that's my wife. Thank you, my wife. I love you. Mutiat, feeling guilty, replied him, I love you too. Do enjoy your meal so I can go and freshen up. But Oladipo beckoned on her to join him eat the food, and she gladly accepted. Few minutes after they finished eating, they both dozed off while in the dining table. Amara came out and she was happy. She knew the substance has taken the greater part of them. She ran to her room, called Obinna, and they managed to take Oladipo to his room, crossing his hands across their shoulders. They laid him in his bed, and Amara went to lay with him, wearing her nightie. Obinna was busy recording them with his phone, while Amara pretended something was happening. When they were done, they went back to the dining room and carried Mutiat to the same room where Oladipo was. With great excitement between Amara and Obinna, they said to one another, "We made it." The next morning, Oladipo and his wife woke to see they still wore same clothes they've been wearing all through the previous day. And Mutiat also remembered she didn't have her shower the previous day, but they couldn't ascertain what happened to them. After 1 week of the incident, Oladipo was planning to go back on his usual business trip. Amara went to his room, showed him an image on her phone, where both of them laid on his matrimonial bed. She told him to cooperate with her, otherwise she would let his wife know. Oladipo became dumbfounded. He wondered when such happened between both of them. But at the same time, he couldn't deny his face on the image he was shown, as he made sure the image wasn't photoshopped. After some time, his mind flashed through the clothes he wore on the image, and he remembered it was the same clothes he wore same day he and his wife slept off after eating. He concluded it was possible something transpired between Amara and himself, since he couldn't remember anything. Oladipo then asked her, "What do you want?" Amara smiled and replied, now you come. I want you for myself." "Are you crazy?" Oladipo asked her. "How do you want your madam to feel when she hears this?" "Hey, Oga, calm down. Which madam? I can handle her," she said to him. Before Oladipo could say Jack, Amara had already pushed him to the bed. He couldn't control himself anymore. He ended up in bed with Amara. Mutiat came back and saw the husband didn't travel again. "Honey, why didn't you go again? And you didn't even deem it fit to inform me?" she asked him. He answered, "Something came up, so I couldn't travel again." Amara and Oladipo's secret relationship continued under Mutiat's nose, as Oladipo never went for his business trip anymore. One day, Mutiat came home so early, she had an online meeting to attend, but to her greatest surprise, she met everywhere in a mess. She called out to Amara, "Amara, Amara, but there was no response. She searched everywhere in the house, with the exception of the guest room, but didn't find her. She had to let go so she could attend the meeting she came back for, as that was the major reason she came back. Little did she know, Oladipo and Amara were together in the guest room. They heard the sound of her car and quickly rushed to the guest room. While Mutiat was having her meeting, three men dressed in suits came in. They had a notice in their hand. One of them said, "I believe we are in the residence of Mr. and Mrs. Oladipo." Mrs. Oladipo nodded and moved away from her laptop, which she was having her meeting with. They handed over the notice to her. They are to vacate from their house within 2 weeks, leaving their cars behind too. Meanwhile, Oladipo started coming out from the guest room as he heard some voices in the sitting room, leaving Amara behind. Mutiat was confused as she read through the notice and listened to them. She said, "I think there is a mix-up somewhere. We have not sold our house nor our cars." Oladipo was welcomed to the sitting room with these words from Mutiat, his wife. He stood still for a while. "Honey, what did you just say? Who are these men and what did they want?" Oladipo asked these questions at the same time as he was shaking. His wife handed over the notice to him. He read it and asked them the evidence they had to back up the notice. The men showed them the documents which showed that Amara sold the house and the cars. She took all the original documents of the house and cars which were inside Mr. and Mrs. Oladipo's room. Mutia shouted, "It's not possible. Amara cannot do that. Moreover, she doesn't have access to our room where these documents are." Oladipo didn't utter any word anymore. He quickly went inside the room where those documents were. Lo and behold, none of those documents were there, and even his traveling documents were missing. He started sweating profusely and immediately went to the guest room where he left Amara, but she wasn't there. He went to her room, but the room was empty. He cried and shouted on top of his voice, "This girl has killed me, oh! Where do we go from here?" Mutiat was still confused as she was still finding it difficult to believe they had become homeless. But that was a sad reality. She cried as she left the sitting room to meet her husband. She said to him in dismay, "I believe you have something to tell me, but it has to wait till I come back." She picked up her credit card and left. Few hours later, she got back home drowned in her tears. "Amara did this one too, oh," she said. "My card had already reached the maximum borrowing limit. I am doomed," as she kept crying. "Oladipo, how did she get into our room? Wait oh, I hope it's not what I'm thinking." She cried the more as she asked Oladipo. And Oladipo replied, "I don't know how it happened. I just remembered she almost ruined my life as she was already planning to blackmail me. And to stop her, I gave into her demands. I never knew she had an ulterior motive. I'm sorry for breaking your trust. Please, let's go to her house immediately before she leaves to an unknown destination," Oladipo told Mutiat. Mutiat answered, "Unfortunately, I don't know where she lives. I don't even know who to reach out to. We are finished," as she carried her hands on her head. Oladipo became furious. "How dare you bring into our home someone you don't have any information about? Now, what becomes of us?" They both sat and cried their hearts out as they lost everything they had in a twinkle of an eye. That brings me to the end of this story. My question is, who amongst Mutiat and Oladipo should be blamed for this misfortune that had befallen their family. As for me, I think Mutiat is the cause of this issue because if she had listened to her husband at first without bringing the help, or maybe the food the husband demanded from her, if she had cooked it by herself, I believe these things wouldn't have happened. Kindly share your thoughts with me in the comment section. Thank you for watching till the end. Please support our channel, African Tales by Nenye, by subscribing, liking and sharing to your loved ones. It helps grow our channel. Also, turn on the notification button so you will know when a new video is uploaded. Till I come your way next time with more interesting story. Bye.